I'm going to do a quick review of the Dior Forever foundation, but I'm going to put it in the perspective of, is this a value add? In other words, does it make you look better, feel better, or solve some kind of complex problem? Keep watching and let's talk through it. So I struggled a little bit with, do I really want to look at reviewing foundations and makeup on this channel? But it brought me back to the premise of it. That puts a spring in your step, lights and ignites your fire, makes you feel better about yourself, then sure. With that in mind, I did a quick search to look at some of the hot types of foundations that are out there. And the one that kind of rose to the top that really intrigued me was the Dior Forever. This is the matte version, and it just had a lot of characteristics I thought it might be kind of fun. Now, before I even go any further, though, I really want to put this into perspective that I typically am not wearing foundation at all anymore. I really kind of have gotten into the tinted sunscreen, maybe a little concealer here or there, and kind of going with that. So with that in mind, I'm going to be looking at foundation, and this foundation in particular, and compare it. Is it actually a better addition for me? Is it, as I said, value add? Does it make me feel better? Does it look better? Is it something that's effective and efficient for me as a way to be able to improve my professional look? So put that in mind. And I also think I should paint the context or the landscape for my skin. Landscape for skin sounds very odd, but you know what I'll be talking about. The idea that, yes, I have mature skin with fine lines. Yeah, they're probably not fine with lines. However, mature skin doesn't really explain everything. I think sometimes it just kind of captures a lot of other descriptors. What I think also comes into mind is when I say the fine lines is that we're going to look at this foundation as to relative whether it sinks into those fine lines. However, the other important things to think about is my skin is kind of more normal. Right now in the summer, I have a little bit of oiliness that I will get through the T-zone. However, I don't have any dry, flaky patches where during the winter, I may get those. I do get those dry, flaky patches. So for right now, my skin seems very normal. I have some acne, scarring. I do not like the feeling of something on my skin, however. So that will be also a really big kind of test I'm going to put this Dior Forever foundation through. So now let's take a little bit more of a closer look at this foundation. It's first of all Dior, and one of the first things I think that you always want to know right up front is it does have a fragrance to it. I actually really like it. It's a really pretty smell. They talk about it being floral skincare. I'm not exactly sure what all that means, but it does have a scent to it. So know that if you're sensitive to that, if you're very much not liking that in any kind of your skincare, any kind of your makeup, you will not like this one. It is pricey. Just want to put that out there as well too. And I am going to hold that also up there because the value add has to be, is it worth it enough? It is supposed to be 24-hour wear. I don't think anyone really probably wants to wear foundation for 24 hours, but I could be wrong there. It's clean makeup, transfer resistant. There are 43 shades if I counted correctly. Right now I'm wearing a 2N. It is not really a great match for me, but I'm in one of those funky places that you get where my body is tan from being out in the sun, kind of being on the boat and all those kind of pieces there. But I wear so much sunscreen that my skin on my face is a very different color than in my chest. Ideally, you would want to probably match, right, your skin, your face to your neck and your décolleté. However, I didn't really want to spend the amount of money that this costs to have a foundation I can really probably only wear for another month or so as my tan slowly fades. So let's just put that out there. This is the matte version. There is a glow version. I also do have a sample of that because they didn't have my color in that I am probably going to test a little bit later. Things first, the box is really pretty. I mean, is that a big factor in the value add part? Probably not, because once this is done, you probably toss it. Okay. The glass bottle is really very, very pretty. It's kind of got that frosted glass. It's a nice rectangular shape. It sits nicely but doesn't topple over. There is a nice pump. Love that as well too. It's one of those that's easy to hold. I know that sounds strange, but sometimes when you are doing your makeup and you pick up a bottle, if it slips through your hands, that's not a great thing. Where this one just kind of rests nicely and you can easily distribute or disperse the pump as you see fit. I am going to insert some clips of me applying this. One of the things that you will notice as I'm applying it, I did use primer this time. I've used this foundation several times. I don't want to rush ahead yet to talk about what I think about this and if it's a value add for me, but I did think it was important to be able to share that I have tried this several days now, many variations, everything from using a little bit of primer, not using primer. I've done 2-3 different application methods between my hands, between my beauty blender that's dampened, between several different types of brushes. So I've used different application methods and also different products underneath my skin. I've always done my skincare, I've always done my moisturizer, and always had sunscreen on. However, I have tried different variations. Good. So as you see me applying it, it does go on. It's a little bit watery because it is kind of a lighter weight type foundation. It's not one of those heavy ones, which has good and bad to it, right? It's not so thick that it's tough to spread. However, it's also a little bit runnier, as you will have noticed, which then makes it a little bit more critical if you are using some type of a sponge beauty blender and type application method. You really probably do want to make sure that you have a nice moist one so that it's not going to just soak all that up. And think about all the dollars that are getting soaked up as well too with that. As you'll see in the application video, I used both the sponge and also a brush, and I still have that on right now. This side was the sponge, this side is the brush. What you would expect, the brush side has a little bit of more coverage and covers a little bit more. Tied to that also means it's a little bit thicker and cakier in some respects. The side with just the sponge was a little bit more natural looking, if applying foundation can be natural looking. I'm not going to say it was skin-like because I don't think you can ever say it's really skin-like, but a little bit more natural looking. You'll also see that I did try and build up the sponge side with a slight second application. Right now, I don't have any powder on, and I did not want to wear powder, and I have not across all the days worn any powder simply because this is already a matte version. So as you'll see through the application process there, it does go on very well. It blends very well. It seems to layer also very well, as I was able to build the side for the sponge to just a higher level of coverage. I have some areas over here where I have some acne scars, and it was able to cover it just not all the way, but a little bit more. And it also did take away a lot of the ruddiness in my skin. So now, is it a value add for me? I'm going to talk about a couple things that are important to me. Number one, I want something to be really fast and easy to apply. I don't want it to be an elaborate series of steps of what I have to do. I also don't want it being so restrictive. Like, for example, if I want to use primer, which I really don't use anymore because I'm not really using foundation, but I don't want to have to use a primer, just like I don't want to be very careful over what sunscreen I use. I want it to be something that I can almost just grab and go. So I want it to be something that's easy to be able to use. I have found that this is very easy to use. It does really not need a primer per se. Today I did apply the marshmallow primer just to kind of give you a sense of what that looks like, but it does actually last all day and very limited movement, so transfer resistant. Definitely I have noticed that. Let me back up first now. Is it something that's really easy to use? I did find that it was very easy to use. I prefer the sponge, and with one light layer, then I preferred the brush. But that's going to also lead me into one of my next points I want to make. So again, easy to use, definitely. It's very versatile in that way. Number two, how does it look? This is a tough one because my test now is going to be against not wearing any foundation. And I really sit back and I look back when I used to wear foundation all the time. I think I was always trying to achieve the point of looking maybe like someone I wasn't. And I want to say that very gingerly because it wasn't like I was trying to be someone else, but I think I was trying to make myself seem a little bit more perfect. Again, flawless skin. That was kind of what I always wanted. I want it to be able to be so that you didn't see the acne scarring that I had. I want it to be able to make it look like everything was already, well, perfect. Of course, no makeup is ever going to really do that. So, value add. My piece now is not to be able to strive for that type of perfection. That doesn't put the spring in my step. Now I really very much are what actually makes me feel a little more presentable, what's good for my skin, what feels good, and what also just has that nice, more natural look. As I say that, even though this can be a lighter touch to a foundation, I feel like it looks too makeup-y. And I'm saying that hoping that everyone understands what I mean when I say too makeup-y. I don't like that makeup-y type look. To me, it looks like I'm wearing foundation. And I don't like that. I don't mind if you have a nice kind of glow to your skin, and there's obviously that maybe you have touched up just a little bit here and there. I'm not against that at all. But I don't like it when, to me, it looks like foundation in the face. And that's what I feel like this looks like, especially on the brush side. But even the second layer that I put on with the sponge side just looks that way to me still. A light layer across here actually achieved a much nicer look to me that I was a little more comfortable with. But I would be buying this because I want it to be a foundation, not just be a light dusting of something. My next part, value add. How does it feel? Now, let me just rewind again. Remember, I'm going to be comparing this to not wearing typically foundation. Some sunscreen, maybe a little bit of concealer, a little touch up here and there, but not full face foundation. Not typically even primer, just my sunscreen, my skincare products, and that light little touch up, and sometimes a little powder. This is not that. This application to me feels very heavy. Matter of fact, I'm sitting here right now counting the hours because I'm going to keep wearing this for several more hours so I can kind of give you some views later on, several hours in. I cannot wait to wash my face. It feels like foundation on my skin. Now, if you are someone who is used to wearing foundation, this might feel very light. This might not feel like anything. But if we put in the perspective of someone who's not typically wearing foundation, this is sitting on my skin and I can't wait to wash my face. So overall now, the value add, is it good for my skin? It's not like it's a serum. It's not like it's a skincare / foundation makeup product. I don't know what floral skincare really means, but I don't think this is something that's going to be necessarily wonderful for my skin. So, no. Does it make me feel better about myself? Or does it make me feel like I'm presenting the type of me? No, I feel a little inauthentic. I don't want to say fake because that doesn't sound right, but I don't feel like myself. 6.5 hours in. Almost 7 hours in since I applied it. Has not budged much and not settled. The color's still not great, but it hasn't oxidized. Hasn't really gotten too oily. It still feels heavy on my skin though. To find some good light in the house because it's already dark out. But I wanted to do a last check-in. Definitely it's all stayed in place. It has not oxidized in Really, I don't know how it's being picked up on the camera, but it hasn't gotten oily at all. I haven't been outside like exercising or anything that I would have thought it might have broken through, but it's doing very well. I still cannot wait to wash my face. And to me, this just looks like foundation, like makeup, as opposed to just you made a little bit better. Just my preference right now. I think probably 5, 7 years ago, I probably would have loved it. Right now, just not for me. But I did want to give you a look. It definitely has not, and I've been rubbing my nose quite a bit today, and it really has not transferred off. So anything that looks like it has, it's because I don't know, I've been blowing my nose and rubbing my nose. Allergies? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, just wanted to give you a last check-in. So even though this has had rave reviews, it's not going to get a rave review from me. It doesn't feel like me. It doesn't make me feel like a better version of me. And maybe if I had tried this 10 years ago, I would have felt a little bit differently, but it's just not working for me. And I don't know if that's because this is the matte. So I do have a sample of the glow. I will probably try that and share that because maybe the matte part of this is just too drying, even though it doesn't feel drying. I don't think it necessarily looks drying, but maybe that's got that characteristic that's making it uncomfortable on my skin. So I will give that a try. But this is just too pricey just to not do what I want it to be able to do. Have you tried it? Do you like it? What are your thoughts? So if you haven't had a chance yet and you're interested, please go ahead and, do that wonderful thing of subscribing. If you like this content, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button so that I know also that you like me to continue this content, because it is kind of stepping a little bit outside of the way I've kind of been taking this channel. So that will give me some feedback as to whether you want me to continue to be able to look also at some of these beauty products. Go ahead and leave comments, thoughts, feedback down below. I can't but wait to be able to keep this community growing. And those are my thoughts on the Dior Forever, the matte version of the floral skincare transfer resistant 24-hour foundation. What are yours?